One of the most exciting parts about owning a home is what? The fact that we can change it and make it the way that we want. So we can remodel it to our pleasure any way we want to make our house, our home, just the way that we want. There are things that you can do that can completely screw up your future resale value and really hurt you. So let's take a look at the top 6 most expensive remodeling mistakes and how to avoid them. My name is Andrew Finney, your real estate geek. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. I upload 6 days a week, so if you want YouTube to notify you the next one, just hit that bell icon. They'll take care of it from there. Okay, team, so let's take a look at this. There are things that you can do that will absolutely obliterate your future resale value, and we don't want to see that happen. You work too hard to get in your home, and we want to make sure that any renovations that you do correctly to get your money and your return back out of it, as well as the enjoyment factor while you're living in that house, okay? So the first mistake is bad design. Having bad design can actually cost you a huge amount of money. It doesn't matter if you put $1 million into that bad design, you could have depreciated your property by $2 million. You feel me? You see where we're going here? Bad design is a bad thing. So before you start wondering about who should be building this or who should be doing this project, talk to some contractors, talk to some engineers, talk to some interior designers, do your due diligence, do some weeks or months or however long it takes of research to make sure that you're doing an appropriate design that actually makes a lot of sense and that you're going to be able to get your money out of, but more importantly, that you're going to be able to enjoy while you're there. A bad design is catastrophic. It is a recipe for disaster if you change it. So it's one of those things we absolutely realistically do reduce property value, just saying. So we want to make sure that you do good design and best practices going forward with your home remodeling projects. The second really expensive mistake is cutting corners. Now, I'm sure a lot of us like to be penny pinching here and there and be pretty frugal, if for nothing more than to see Abe Lincoln jump off that penny, right? So it does happen, right? So sometimes some of us are a little bit so frugal that Abe does jump, and it's kind of interesting to watch. At the same time, you don't want to be cutting corners when it comes to your home remodel projects. You want to make sure you're investing in quality materials. You want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Cutting the process or cutting corners when it comes to hiring contractors or hiring the professional tradespeople that should be coming in and doing the appropriate work in your house, from electrical to plumbing to structural to what have you, whatever remodel that you got going on, you need to have the right people to make sure that you're not cutting that corner and the job is being done correctly. Because here's the truth of the matter. Whenever you get ready to sell that home, and at some point you will sell that house, whether it's 20 years from now, 30 years from now, or whether it's your heirs. If those projects were done incorrectly, they're going to have to fix them, or they're going to have to take a less of a price on that home because it wasn't done correctly. Kind of goes back to one of those bad design things, right? We want to make sure that's not you or your case, so make sure that we do this right. So what you want to do is that you want to consider everything that you're doing, right? Are you going to repair something? Or are you going to replace something? Depending on what that something is, it can be a lot more prudent to just replace it. Yes, it's more expensive than a repair, but a repair is a what? A repair is essentially a patch job. If you have a hole in your roof, you have a roof guy come out and they say, hey, guess what? Great news is we could patch it up for like $600, or we could replace the roof and you'll never have to worry about it again for the next 25, 30 years, or whatever the case may be, right? Which option would you take? The prudent option is making sure that you replace it and making sure that you're putting that money up front into your house as an investment, because $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. That roof may cost you $10,000, $12,000 today, in other words, and that roof might cost you $15,000, $17,000 10 years from now. Exact same roof, just inflation and accounting for money, right? So you want to make sure that you're making a savvy decision on repair versus replace. Now, if you have a faulty toilet dauber or something like that, you know, those little things that we flush our toilet with, now, obviously, you could just simply replace the defective component. No need to go out and replace the whole toilet. So there's different things that things make a lot of sense on whenever you're entertaining repair versus replace. In the remodel phase itself, if you see faulty plumbing or faulty electrical, it would behoove you to have any and all of it replaced and make sure it's up to the current codes and make sure that it's safe. A good, for instance, is, and I don't know, it's kind of shocking sometimes, I guess, or maybe it's just the way Vegas or older homes are sometimes. But one of the houses that I had renovated here in Las Vegas, it was really interesting, let me tell you. Opened up the shower, was doing a master bathroom remodel, and guess what I found? I found a sprinkler tube connecting the water. And I thought, OMG, I am so glad that I actually opened up that wall and all that plumbing is now nice new copper and I don't have to worry about having water damage in my house now. But that's the reality of it. If you see that kind of stuff, that's an example of somebody that had done a project, cut a corner, and it could have exploded and backfired on them, if not on me, the new homeowner, and I would have been wondering what the heck, right? So it's not cool. Make sure that you're doing things correctly and that you're doing them legitimately. So the third mistake that people make is they get only one opinion. When you're looking through contractors, the smart thing thing to do is to find 2 to 3 contractors for whatever trades that you're looking at, or maybe you're entertaining general contractors and let them hire these subsidiary trades that may be needed, right? At the same time, if you're only getting one bid, what can you balance it against? You quickly realize that people have different prices out there, just like anything else in this world, right? Normally the cheapest price isn't the best price, but normally the highest price could do a bit better. So sometimes it's that middle price that's going to make the most sense. But how are you going to know that unless you have contacted about 3 or 4 different contractors, ask them about the project, ask them about their insights, check their reviews, check their ratings, Google everyone, Google everything, get past client testimonials, and see who is going to be right for you in that project. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time to actually do that, because if you're only getting one estimate, you could be overpaying as opposed to being able to get a fair price for the work that you want and spending the extra money that you might have overpaid them on higher quality product that goes into your house. Now, the fourth huge and very expensive mistake people make is skipping the permit process. So here's the deal. A lot of people could get tempted and say, hey, can't we just skip the permit process on this one? No, you can't. So skipping the permit process might actually be a little bit tempting, but it's never worth it. Never, ever, ever, ever. I think I made the point, right? So here we go. Never ever worth it. So make sure that you're always doing the right thing and getting it, because here's the thing. They're going to have different permitting processes across the United States. Some states are going to require certain things that have permits, and certain states are going to say it's okay not to. So what happens if you skip the permit process? It can actually result in spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on your remodel on something, and then literally being forced by the city code inspector, whomever, to completely demolish it because it extends beyond the building setback and the codes at that time. So the permit process also compares your plans to the building code to make sure that any health and safety concerns are being addressed and everything is current and good to go. So what you want to do is that you want to insist on all work on your house having the proper permits if needed by going through the local building department. So in some jurisdictions, and a lot of jurisdictions in fact, they do allow for things like painting, obviously, flooring, countertops, etc. to be done without a permit. But other places that might require a permit just as for something as simple as changing a doorknob. So you would need to check with your local building department and jurisdiction to know what's required, what's not required. And a good way to know that is actually talk to the contractor, what requires a permit, what doesn't require a permit, and do your due diligence and make sure it's done correctly. Skipping the permit process can really mess people up, especially if they're doing room additions or if they're adding on to the house, because by skipping it, guess what you don't get the opportunity to do when you resell it? You don't get the opportunity to count that square foot into the home unless it has been permitted. And in fact, it can be a negative setback on your property when you go back to list that property if your listing agent, which they will be required to do, by the way, to say this work was unpermitted, unless you can produce the permits. If you have that's your situation and you're adding onto a property, keep those permits. You will need it and if and whenever you decide to sell that house. So the fifth mistake is wearing too many hats. I mean, a lot of us say, oh, well, you know, I don't need a general contractor because I'll just contact all the trades myself. I'm going to interview 3 to 5 different people for the electrical, 3 to 5 different people for the plumbing, 3 to 5 people for the floor, 3 to 5 people for the master bathroom remodel, master kitchen remodel, what have you, right? Well, doing that is actually exasperating and it's going to be very difficult to get it all done. So wearing too many hats can actually be a detriment, whereas in your clearer mind and focused mind, you would make an extremely well-informed and smart decision about whom you chose to hire. If you're taking on too much at one time, you can actually get burnout on the process, and the process hasn't even yet begun. So you might want to consider a general contractor or taking your renovations in a phase by phase way, right? That's how I like to do my renovations. For reference, I take everything phase by phase. So I'll come out with a game plan. It's like normally a 3 to 5 year plan of renovations. And I'll say year 1 is this renovation, year 2 is this renovation, year 3, you know, whatever, right? Budget out accordingly for each one of those projects and renovations and make sure everything is ready to go, including the time of year that makes most sense for my schedule as a trusted real estate advisor to get everything taken care of whenever I'm going to be able to do it. And also at the same time, when I know that contractors are a little bit more up on their game because they don't have as much work to do during the certain times of the year. So here's what you want to do. You want to always identify, kind of like what I was just talking about, what's the best time of year for you and your schedule. That's whenever you want to plan your renovations. You want to plan them at your convenience. You're paying for the work, you're paying for the renovations, right? Let's try to make it as convenient as possible because it's going to be a little bit of an inconvenience while the renovation is going on. At the same time, by planning it out to what's convenient with your schedule, you're setting yourself up for success and setting yourself up for a clear mind so that you can oversee or ask questions of the process as you move forward, pivot, adjust, and make sure that you're getting it done just the way that you want. Now, the 6th big mistake that people make all the time is under budgeting for a project. You watch the DIY network, you watch HGTV, you're listening to different things about how much something could cost, and they're like, oh, it's going to be $10,000 for the master bathroom remodel, but maybe that was an 1,800 square foot home with a master bathroom that might have been 300 square feet. Let's say that you live in maybe a 4,000 square foot home and your master bath is like 600 square feet. 10,000 ain't going to cut it. You're going to need a budget more like 20, 25,000. So that's where interviewing multiple contractors would come in, if not an all-out general contractor, to give you the reasonable price of what you can expect to pay based upon the fit and finish that you want. That's what always throws the price here and there and everywhere. Is once we get in the process, if you want to make a change, you want a certain grade of granite, certain grade of corian, certain grade of what have you, certain grade of tiles or whatever. Maybe you want to go full spa shower. Maybe that requires additional plumbing, yada, 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 yada. You can easily rack up the remodel bills very easily. So you want to budget accordingly. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to start meeting with general contractors at your convenience, of course, at your pace and your convenience, maybe as 3 to 6 or even 9 months before you embark on the project, so that you can go ahead and get the quotes at your convenience, and you can start comparing what the project cost would be. And then when you get ready to pull the trigger on that remodel at the time of the year that makes most sense for you and your schedule, then you can go ahead and make that happen. But in that case, by doing that up front, that planning process 3, 6, 9 months in advance, it helps you know whether you have under budgeted, over budgeted, or if you're on budget, right? So if you're under budgeting, the big thing that comes into play is like a cost overrun. Earlier in today's episode, I was talking about the fact that when I did a master bathroom remodel on one of my properties, right? What happened is when all the wall came off, when all the tile came off, all that old white yucky tile, right? It all came out of there, and the wall was now exposed down to the plumbing, right? There was actually a sprinkler system in there. It was a sprinkler system. It was not a freaking shower. I don't know what the heck. Poof. I talked about cutting a corner. So the point being is that obviously led to a cost overrun because I wasn't anticipating having to rip out all the plumbing and replace it all brand new. So that was one of those cases that you always want to factor when you're doing your remodels. Added to safely account for any possible cost overruns. Make sure that you're adding 10 to 15% of the project cost just in case. That will give you an insulated number that help keep you on budget. And if you don't use that 10 or 15% of cost overrun, the beautiful thing is that you can save that money and use it for the next renovation project that you want next year, or at your convenience when you get ready to do the next renovation. So obviously, 3 things that you can do when it comes down to budgeting for your renovation: you can get a loan, you can reduce the scope of the project and the size by breaking it into phases, or you can actually wait until you save up the money and be able to pay all cash for it. Now obviously the latter part is a little bit more time consuming to be able to do. At the same time, it's probably one of the easiest things to do, because unless your house is just so horrific to you, you bought it for a reason, right? So if you wait until you save up the cash, then you're able to commit to that project at the time of your convenience, make things happen, and it's done. Now, if you get a loan, then you got to repay that loan, and depending on your financial situation, that's comfortable, not comfortable, whatever, only you can decide what's right for you. At the end of the day, just make sure that you're making a well-informed, smart decision about the type of renovations that you are making on your property, and that you've taken to heart these top 6 most expensive remodeling mistakes and how to avoid them so that you can avoid them the next time you're planning a remodel project. You might want to refer back to another video. I'll make it available in the last part of this episode about the top 15 home renovations that actually give you value and add value to your home, the smart ones to make and do. Here's what I'd like you to do. Tell me what you're thinking about this episode in the comment section below, along with any of the experiences that you've had remodeling your house with those mistakes and how to avoid them in the comment section below. Let's continue to learn and to grow together as a team and community. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop up my contact information. If you want to drop me a line to say hello, or if you simply need help finding a top agent where you live, please let me know. I always love to hear from you. If you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this channel. Number 2, please like this video. Number 3, please share this video around with someone you know is going to be a help, because just like you, I'm sure you've heard of somebody else that's thinking about a remodel, and you want to make sure that you help them by avoiding the most expensive mistakes when they plan out the project. Please go ahead and share this video with them. Thank you so much. In between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Thank you so much for watching today, and enjoy an amazing day.